Hello, everyone. Okay, so we are here on the train going back home to Toronto. And along the way, the game asked us if we want to have some, have an introspective moment. So this is just where the game is going to kind of tell us what we missed. So if you just say no, the game says, okay, cool, and just moves on. But let's go ahead and I think if you say anything else, if you try to look around, it's a yes or no question. Would you like to be prudent with some helpful introspective thoughts? Yes or no? Gosh, okay, well, you don't have to get so sassy. Okay, let's say yes. So, you ponder the thoughts you had the previous night before bed.
What could have happened to the silver steins?
That's right. We never did find out what happened to the silver steins that Margot took from the display case. So that's an open point. I think that had something to do with Nathan. So okay, that's something I missed.
Maybe if I asked around after Margot's death, folks would feel less protective of her and more talkative.
Okay, so somebody who might have been protective of Margot beforehand might have felt a little bit more inclined to tell the truth after she was dead since it didn't matter anymore. Okay, I think that someone was Nathan. I suspect that someone was Nathan, but anyway.
I'm pretty sure that Nathan was Mr. Richards' friend. But did he miss any important details of his actions? What if Nathan was trying to preserve and protect the lodge and lands?
Well, he was.
He might have sought out Albert's help. I should have kept my eyes and ears open for that circumstance.
Okay, so obviously there's a conversation that transpired between Nathan and Albert that we missed. Obviously, I mean, yeah, there were obviously a couple of conversations that I did miss. Okay, that is not too surprising, I guess.
Did Nathan stand to lose anything by helping Mr. Richards? He wasn't at the dining room meeting with Ranger Murdoch.
Oh, did I miss a conversation that might have happened before I went to the dining room with Ranger, where we met Ranger Murdoch? I thought I got everything, but maybe I missed something.
I was going to ask Jack about it at the time, but he didn't seem to want me to address that. Maybe if I'd asked Jack about Nathan after that meeting, or even Nathan himself, I'd learn something interesting.
Okay, so most of what I missed centers around Nathan. There's obviously some point where I should have talked to Nathan and didn't.
I collected some rock salt from the bag in the smokehouse. Is there something more than just salt in this?
Yeah, so, there was a hint in the, I think in the questions that we answered before, and somebody also mentioned in the comments, well, I think the hint, yeah, not a hint per se about salt, but there was apparently a clue about the diamonds being hidden in the smokehouse. And somebody did point out in the comments in the previous video, yeah, wasn't there salt in the smokehouse? Maybe it had something to do with that. So yeah, I'm gonna guess that the salt in quotation marks and air quotes was actually diamond dust, or at least contained diamond dust or something. I don't know. I really don't know. Or actually, no, I guess it wouldn't be dust, because if it's rock salt is chunky, so it's not like table salt. It's not like free flowing table salt. It's chunky salt. So I guess maybe some of those salt chunks were actually diamonds. I don't know. I'm just assuming. I really don't know. Obviously, this is something that I missed in the smokehouse, so this would have been good to check, because this would have filled in a little bit of the blank that we have here, but I missed it. Oh well.
I can't think of much else, actually.
Okay, so that's all I missed. So really, I didn't miss that much. I think the walkthrough that I was using I was just basically following the walkthrough, so I don't think it's necessarily my fault. I think it's just that the walkthrough didn't quite signpost everything. Which is, okay, the walkthrough wasn't 100% perfect. There are a few walkthroughs on the internet. I just picked one. Maybe I should have picked another one. Oh well. Again, I'm actually not too worried about it. I don't really feel the need to 100% everything. It's interesting. When I was younger, I really was very compelled to get full points on all these games and do everything. I feel a little bit less compelled. I'm a little bit less of a perfectionist. I'm more about balance, and so I'm a little bit more accepting of saying, okay, I missed like one or two conversations in the game. I'm not gonna go to extraordinary heroic lengths to capture them. I might, like I said before, I might make a follow-up video and try to capture the things that I missed. But honestly, I'm not too dissatisfied that I missed like a couple of minor points in the game, because I think I really covered like more than 90% of what was relevant. Anyway, you turn your attention towards your impending interview with Ranger Murdoch.
As for Margot's death, Ranger Murdoch could have been helpful. I could have told him about my investigation into Margot's death.
So I probably should have done this. I didn't trust this guy because he was obviously here under the pretense of investigating Margot's death, and I wasn't sure why he was here. I thought at first that he might be a corrupt cop. Well, he didn't turn out to be corrupt. He was here because of Albert. And so Margot was a pretense covering for his investigation of Albert. So actually, he wasn't corrupt. I probably should have told him stuff about Margot's death. I think this is going to negatively impact the rating later. This is going to come back to bite me a bit because, well, we'll see. I don't want to give stuff away, but there is going to be more of a review later, which I think is going to be significantly impacted by this. Anyway,
maybe Ranger Murdoch could help me figure out Margot's illness if I told him about it. Maybe Margot was killed by something she ate or drank. Perhaps her drinking glass was worth a closer look.
I checked her, I mean, Nancy's saying this like I didn't check what she was drinking, but we know that she was poisoned by Nessa, that Nessa put arsenic in her water, so it's not like I know about that. Again, the Steins, I know.
I didn't solve the mystery of the missing silver wedding steins. I do know Margot took them, she admitted as much. But I don't know where the steins are now. Maybe I should have made some inquiries. Particularly after Margot's death, when perhaps people would no longer feel the need to protect her.
Yeah, we talked about this already, Nancy. You already said that. Yeah, after Margot died, I probably should have asked Nathan about the steins after Margot died. Okay, I get it. Okay, so once again, a couple of things, or like 2 or 3 things that I missed, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal in my opinion. Ranger Murdoch meets you at Union Station as arranged.
Ranger Murdoch!
Hello, Nancy. It's good to see you again. Would you like me to drive you home to rest?
No, thanks. I'm eager to have my interview. Let's go.
Let's go.
Right, follow me. And here we are, seated at the police station. You look over at the wanted posters on the bulletin board and see a familiar face. The face has familiar features, but the expression gives you pause. It's unmistakably Margot, but she looks scared and angry, and the name is different too. The Margot you knew was at peace, kind and caring. You feel fortunate to have met her when you did. The poster lists her offenses as assault, theft, racketeering, public nuisance. Nancy?
Sorry, just lost in thought.
Ah, yes, that person has been on the most wanted list for a few years now. Skagway was a near lawless place. Sometimes who the criminals were was a matter of public opinion. And sometimes, if you didn't make friends with the right people, you could get stuck with all sorts of trumped-up charges. Does she look familiar to you?
No, I don't recognize her.
Very well, let's begin. And that's the end of that. So I have to say, I'm a little bit ambiguous about this decision to not mention that the person in the picture on the wanted poster is Margot. I understand that Nancy is protecting Margot, but Margot is dead. I could understand if Margot was alive, but Margot is obviously not going to go to prison now for anything. And I understand the point here is that Margot has, turned over a new leaf. She started a new life. This is also, I guess, why, you remember when we were talking to her, she said, I used to be a city girl, but that's all changed, and now I prefer life in the country. Well, I guess the reason why is because she wanted to get away from a place where people would recognize her and arrest her for her crimes. So, I'm kind of divided on this. On the one hand, okay, I get it that Margot probably started a new life and wanted to be left in peace, but on the other hand, was she really a good person? It seems to me like she acted nice. And this is the thing, a lot of cons, like a lot of criminals and a lot of, con people, what they'll do is they'll act very nice to people because they know that people will react this way. They know that even when people find out that that person's a criminal, people will say, oh, but I don't want to turn them in because they were so nice to me. They always treated me so well. I don't want to turn them into, to the police because they've just always been so kind to me. And a lot of psychopaths and, other people like that will do exactly this. They'll be so nice to people that people just don't have the heart to turn them in. I'm not saying that Margot was a psychopath. I'm not saying that she deserved to, go to prison. I don't think she deserved to die. But now that she is dead, why say I don't recognize her? Why not say, hey, you know what? I know that person. She's dead now, so you can take the poster down and kind of... Because the police are still going to... it's consuming police resources as well, because they're looking for this person, probably not aware that she's dead. So why not just go ahead and close it up? To be fair, this guy's not a very good investigator, because if he was supposed to be checking out Margot's death, he should have seen her body and realized, oh, hey, that's the same person. Even if he was actually in Crimson to investigate Albert, I assume he must have taken at least a cursory glance at Margot's body. At least he must have some idea of what she looked like. And then to not recognize her after he just saw her, I don't know. It seems a little bit far-fetched to me. But anyway, like I said, I'm not saying that Margot necessarily deserved to go to prison. But now that she's dead anyway, why not just say, hey, you can take that poster down? I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I got a bit sidetracked on that. It just seems odd to me. But anyway, very well, let's begin. Suddenly the door bursts open to reveal your boss, Professor Plummer.
Nancy, there you are. Welcome back. I'd heard the train had come in.
Sir, we're in the middle of a confidential interview.
My apologies, I won't be a moment. Nancy, what did you find? Are there diamonds in Crimson? I must know. Yes or no?
A note has been added to your notebook. What we say here is this is probably the single biggest determining factor in determining how the game ends. I'm going to tell the truth and say yes.
Yes, Professor Plummer. At least I strongly believe that there are diamonds in Crimson. I've obtained some samples that will need further analysis to verify.
Dear girl, give them to me and I'll take them to the museum immediately.
You hand all of your samples over to the professor whose eyes light up like a kid at Christmas.
Now, Professor, I witnessed you receiving these samples from Miss Maple here. I'm sure I don't need to be concerned that her name will be forgotten in the excitement. It was Nancy's hard work and her samples, and if these should indeed be diamonds, her credit, yes?
Professor Plummer bristles.
Why, naturally. I'd be appalled that you might suggest otherwise.
Good. Good evening, Professor.
Good evening, officer. And good evening, Nancy. I can hardly contain myself. We'll talk soon.
Bye, Professor. Okay, now let's really begin. Any information provided will be kept strictly confidential, of course. Then why don't you close the door? Close the door if this is such a confidential interview so that other people don't come in and interrupt you like that, idiot. Dummkopf. Thank you, I appreciate it. We've detained Nessa Krabbe in connection with Evan Richards' kidnapping and attempted fraud. According to Mr. Richards, he was assaulted at the jetty, but it was dark out and he was rather inebriated. Do you have any evidence connecting Nessa to the scene at the jetty? Yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. What evidence did you find? If there are multiple points to make, we'll discuss them separately.
Well, I guess the main thing is that decanter that we got because it had Nessa's fingerprints on it.
I found Nessa's...
Or fingerprint, singular.
I found Nessa's fingerprint on a shattered crystal decanter at the jetty. It was made of thick glass. It wouldn't have broken from being tipped over or dropped from carrying height. I think Nessa had a confrontation with Evan on the jetty, during which she forcefully threw the decanter down, causing it to break. Well done, Nancy. Our investigators found that broken decanter and came to a similar conclusion. Did you find anything in areas besides the jetty that would connect Nessa to Evan's kidnapping? Yes or no? Yes, I did. Yes, I do. What evidence did you find? If there are multiple points to make, we'll discuss them separately.
So, what did we find? First of all, we found the shoe prints connecting Nessa's presence at the jetty and in the forest where Evan was dragged to that smokehouse.
I found Nessa's shoe prints in the wooded area near the jetty. How do you know the shoe prints belong to Nessa? I learned the shoe sizes of everyone at the lodge. She's the only one who wears that size and style of shoe. That's some good detective work, Nancy. We know about the shoe prints because we took prints of Nessa's shoes when we took her into custody. I tracked Nessa's shoe prints into the smokehouse. I think that's where she and Corvus temporarily detained Evan until they were ready to take him to the garnet mine.
Do you have anything else to share that would connect Nessa to Evan's kidnapping in areas other than the jetty? Yes or no? Yes, I do. What evidence did you find?
Also, that hair, we found a sample, we found a few strands of what were probably Nessa's hair on that tree.
I recovered these hairs from the woods north of the jetty. I'm pretty confident they belong to Nessa.
You hand the long gray-brown hairs over to Ranger Murdoch.
Wow! Our investigators didn't find any hairs. I'll send them over to take another look. The bulbs of these hairs are intact, so that means they needed to be ripped from the scalp with some force. That definitely implies she was part of a struggle in that area. I'm going to have to keep these hairs, Nancy.
Of course.
Do you have anything else to share that would connect Nessa to Evan's kidnapping in areas other than the jetty? Yes. The other thing is the almonds. Those almonds.
I found these Jordan almond fragments on the table in the smokehouse. I managed to recover Nessa's fingerprint from one of the candied shells.
This is fantastic, Nancy. You've placed Nessa in that smokehouse. May I have those?
Of course.
You give the Jordan almond fragments to Ranger Murdoch.
I think that's all the information I have about Nessa and the areas around the jetty.
Okay, let's move on. We believe Mr. Richards was being held in the lodge's smokehouse before being moved to the garnet mine. Did you find any evidence to support our theory regarding his unlawful confinement? Yes or no? Yes, I do. What evidence did you find?
The rope fragments. We found little fragments of rope on the floor of the smokehouse.
I'm not sure that's relevant in this instance.
Okay, do I just need to say rope? He doesn't understand rope. Okay, rope fibers, duh. Okay.
Yes, I found rope fibers on the floor of the smokehouse. I believe he was tied up and then taken away later.
Yes, Mr. Richards has said as such. All the evidence we can gather will help us build a case against Nessa. How did you figure out that Mr. Richards was taken to the garnet mine? If you're not sure, you can say no or pass.
Well, this was kind of in my opinion, this was kind of a stretch, but yeah, it was the Hallengrotta symbol, which we learned the meaning of by talking to Jack, because I guess Jack speaks Swedish. I don't know if Jack is Swedish or just happens to know what it means, but anyway, yeah, there was that symbol on the wall in the smokehouse, and this is, again, to me, it's really a long stretch, but okay, let's go with it.
Mr. Richards had used the jam from Jack's thumbprint cookies to draw a hidden symbol. The symbol was a red circle surrounded by a round red border.
Red?
It was raspberry jam. I smelled it. It smelled lovely. The symbol even resembled the thumbprint cookies, which I learned are called Hallengrotta in Swedish. Hallengrotta means raspberry cave in English. And a raspberry cave could be a garnet.
Wait, this is the guy talking.
And a raspberry cave could be a garnet mine?
Exactly. Mr. Richards was talking about the garnet mines at dinner on the night I arrived in Crimson. He said they'd been deserted for years. It was the perfect place for them to hide him.
Mr. Richards told us that Nessa was attempting to intimidate him into signing a forged copy of his own will. Do you have any knowledge that might back up this claim? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I understand. What did you learn?
We learned about the, can I say I think I need to say the fake will. Wait, this comes later. Oh, sorry, he's asking about whether Evan was intimidated into signing the will. Okay, so, yeah, okay, this is about the almonds. I need to mention the almonds here.
Mr. Richards is allergic to almonds and has been since childhood. It was common knowledge, and Nessa brought Jordan almonds with her when she returned to the lodge. I found shattered pieces of Jordan almonds in the smokehouse where I believe Mr. Richards was briefly held. I managed to recover one of Nessa's fingerprints from the remnants of one of the shiny candy shells.
You already said that. We already talked about this.
Stellar work, Nancy. Oh, probably Stella. Stellar work, Nancy. Our investigative team didn't find that. What's more?
What's more, there were more Jordan almond pieces in the cavern where Nessa brought him. There's no doubt in my mind that Nessa brought the Jordan almonds to the lodge knowing full well how dangerous they were to Mr. Richards. Maybe at first she only planned to intimidate him with them, but in the end, she was prevented from doing any worse.
Let's move on to Corvus Shaw's role in Mr. Richards' kidnapping. Do you have any evidence that could connect Corvus to his crimes? Yes, I do.
So, what do we have against Corvus? We have, again, we have the shoe prints.
I found Corvus' shoe prints on the jetty, in the woods leading away from the jetty, and leading into the smokehouse. The shoe prints on the jetty must have been formed when he stepped into the spilled whiskey, and they were still wet. That suggests to me that he was either present during the abduction of Mr. Richards or soon after. Considering the scuff marks I saw on the jetty, Mr. Richards was dragged away with some force. I doubt Nessa, an elderly lady, could have dragged her brother away with that amount of force.
Yeah, that's what I said at the time. Nessa couldn't have done that alone. She must have had an accomplice. That's terrific work, Nancy. Our investigators didn't see any shoe prints on the jetty, so they must have dried up before we got there. Wouldn't they have been on the grass, though, since they went through the forest? But now that we know they're there, perhaps some forensic processes will help to reveal them.
I think Corvus' movements during that time are pretty clear.
Very thorough of you. Every bit helps. Do you have anything else? Yeah, so the other thing is that button. Remember that button that we found on the ground near the smokehouse?
I found this metal button which I recovered from outside the smokehouse. I observed Corvus wearing a strapped vest with this exact type of button that very same night. If you examine the clothing he was wearing at that time, I'm sure you'll find that one of the buttons is missing.
We did indeed make note of the missing button, and now we know what happened to it. That is a very good piece of evidence, Nancy. May I have it?
Of course.
I think that's all the information I have about connecting Corvus to the crimes against Mr. Richard. Oh.
I think that's all the information I have about connecting Corvus to the crimes against Mr. Richards.
Okay, let's move on. What about any lesser crimes? We suspect Corvus was brought to the lodge by Nessa to commit fraud. Do you know anything about that? Yes or no? Okay, here, now we can talk about the will.
I found Mr. Richards' last will and testament in Corvus' satchel. It stated that Nessa was to get everything after his death. Although, it hadn't been signed by Mr. Richards, and the writing was in Corvus' hand. That seemed pretty fishy to me.
Very interesting. Do you happen to have that document?
I do. Here you go.
You hand the questionable document over to the ranger. Thanks, Nancy. Again, it's odd that they had that Corvus and Nessa had this document suddenly in the mine when they were talking to Evan. I mean, they could have just made another copy, but I don't know if that's a plot hole or whatever. It doesn't really matter.
You're welcome.
And what about Karl Leffler, a.k.a. Albert Respa? What can you tell me about him? Rangers apprehended him in the middle of a sabotage attempt on the Sulaks, so that's an open and shut case. But we suspect this man is involved in other illegal acts. Do you think you have an... Okay, yes. So, yes, we have that report that we also found in Corvus's... Wait, where did we get the report? Was that in Corvus's satchel as well? Or was that... No, wait, that was in Albert's room, wasn't it? I don't even remember now. We got two things from Corvus's satchel. One was the will. What was the other one? We got the fake will. What was the other thing we got from Corvus's satchel? Or did we get this report from Albert's desk? I don't remember. Doesn't matter.
I revealed indentations of what was written on the papers that were on top of these ones. Both are mineralogical reports by Albert, only one said there were diamonds in crimson, and the other said there were none.
Why would that be?
I suspect Albert wasn't actually a mineralogist at all, and that neither report is valid. He was scamming Nathan and Nessa. Carl, I'm sorry it's hard to keep everything straight.
That's okay, Nancy. You're doing great.
I found a field report.
Okay, that wasn't Corvus' satchel. Yeah, okay. Why did I think it was from Albert's desk? I don't know.
I found a field report in Corvus' satchel that was identical to the indentations on the paper in the...
Oh, okay. So in Albert's study, in Albert's room, we got the blank... That's right, we got the blank paper, and on the blank paper, we saw the pen indentations, but in Corvus' satchel, we found the actual document. That's right. Okay, fine. Okay, cool. All right.
I was able to read the full field report, and it's clear to me that Albert was stringing terms together without knowing what they actually meant.
Fascinating. You wouldn't happen to have that field report, would you?
As a matter of fact, I do.
You hand the field report over to Ranger Murdoch. Great work, Nancy. It's not worth the paper...
It's not worth the paper it's written on. Any mineralogist will tell you that. The Geological Survey of Canada would never endorse it. I'll be filing my own field report, which I'm hoping the Royal Canadian Museum will publish. I'm proud of the work I did. With any luck, my report will be a newly definitive survey of Crimson, Ontario. Sorry, I got a bit carried away. Back on topic. Would you like to take these crumpled papers into evidence?
Yes, indeed. You hand the crumpled papers over to the ranger. If there's something else to tell me about Leffler, just say so. Else say no and move on to something else. Let me just check the walkthrough that I'm using here. Is there anything else about... Oh, right. The, let's mention the luggage.
I found his train ticket stub in one of the jackets he left behind before he fled the lodge. When I saw him on the platform in Crimson, I mentioned that I hadn't seen him on the train. He told me that he had been in the first-class car, which was a lie. His ticket stub clearly says coach, same as mine and Kimmy's. And what's more, I found his fingerprint on the ticket stub, clear as day. I also remember smelling cigar smoke in the coach car, the same brand that Albert smokes. I vaguely remember a man sitting directly behind Kimmy and I for part of the journey up to Crimson.
This is actually a wrong use of I. If you say behind, it's not behind I, it's behind me, behind Kimmy and me.
He was concealed by newspaper. I never saw his face. I think he overheard me and Kimmy talking about Crimson and why we were traveling there. He must have been afraid I'd be able to reveal him as an imposter if I had my field kit, so he got rid of it while me and Kimmy were sleeping.
Now this is the opposite. This should be while I and Kimmy were sleeping. Come on, Nancy. You're smart. You should know the difference between the subject and the object of the sentence.
I think he tossed my luggage out the back of the train. That would be the easiest way to dispose of it surreptitiously. He then hid in the neighboring first-class car when it was empty, near the end of our journey.
Very well deduced, Nancy. It just so happens, rangers found your luggage near the train tracks between Crimson's train station and the previous stop.
Oh my goodness, they did?
Yes, your name was found on a tag inside. Everything is intact.
That's wonderful news. I was afraid I'd have to save up for another field kit.
Your luggage is still an exhibit in the ongoing investigation into Karl Leffler. We found some fingerprints on the inside and outside of the luggage. We'll be needing to fingerprint you while you're here at the station, so we can separate your prints from those of the suspects. After the case is wrapped up, we'll return your luggage to you, of course.
I understand. Thank you, Ranger Murdoch.
Do you have this ticket stub you found? If so, may I have it?
Of course. Here you go. Yes and yes.
Yeah, the train sits up over to Ranger Murdoch. How about the cigar butt, Nancy? It could prove helpful, too.
Certainly.
Sweetly. You give this cigar butt to the ranger. If there's something else you'd like to say, there's one more thing. Let's mention the bridge.
I think Carl, sabotaged the train bridge. On the same super telegraph tape that revealed Albert's real name and next target for sabotage, it said, "Well done in Crimson." I found a stick of dynamite under his bed. I think it rolled there when he was packing to hurriedly leave the lodge. On the way to the lodge in that first night in Crimson, Jack commented on how heavy Carl's set of luggage was. I bet most of Carl's luggage was dedicated to hauling explosive equipment, dynamite and blasting caps. In fact, I found a tin of blasting caps that Carl left in the lodge as well as a bullet. He was definitely up to no good. He'd stored the blasting caps and bullets in the blue trunk in the upstairs closet. I found his fingerprint on the padlock.
Outstanding. Very well done.
Gee, thanks.
Carl's fingerprint is on this tin of blasting caps. He definitely handled them. Oh, that was Nancy talking. Excellent work, Nancy. May I have the tin? It's very compelling evidence.
Of course. Here you go.
Yeah, the blasting caps were to Ranger Murdoch. Carl... Who's talking? I don't know. Okay, this must be Nancy.
Carl knew to store the dynamite separately from the blasting caps. He probably had training with explosives, or at least some prior knowledge. And I'm almost certain that if Rangers search the immediate area around the bridge, they'll find discarded luggage, probably part of the same set with explosives residue inside.
This is very useful information. We originally suspected Leffler of the bridge sabotage, but hadn't thought to search for luggage that matches the set he was carrying when we arrested him at the Sulaks. That would be a very compelling connection to make, should we find such an item. Speaking of items, do you happen to have this telegraph tape?
I do. Here you go.
You have the telegraph tape to Ranger Murdoch. Thanks, Nancy. Do you have the bullet you discovered?
Absolutely. Here it is.
You hand the bullet to Ranger Murdoch. Thanks, Nancy. Do you happen to have the padlock with fingerprint on it? So that would help strengthen our case against Mr. Leffler.
I do. Here you go.
Amazing work, Nancy.
I think that's all I have to share about Karl Leffler.
Fair enough, let's move on to something else. I think that just about wraps everything up, Nancy. You've been very helpful, Nancy. I don't think you could have done any better. Mighty fine detective work. In fact, you wouldn't be interested in a career in law enforcement, would you?
Oh, I hadn't considered that. That's very flattering, but I'm keen on mineralogy.
I understand, but if you ever change your mind, you let me know.
Of course.
Good night, Nancy.
Good night.
So that was the whole sequence with Ranger Murdoch. Yeah, that really went on for a long time. And I think we aced it. I think we got everything. Like, I think that was really everything that we could have done there. So I think I managed to cover every single point there. So that at least went well. That was like an A+ performance with Ranger Murdoch. You head home after completing your interview with Ranger Murdoch and immediately set to work on your field report of Crimson. Professor Plummer is amazed at your exciting discovery. He tells you that Crimson Diamonds will become a national sensation, and so will you. Your field report is published by the Royal Canadian Museum and eventually endorsed by the Geological Survey of Canada. Professor Plummer no longer expected to be a mere clerk. You never become acquainted with the filing system. You are far too busy helping to prepare the museum's upcoming Crimson Diamonds exhibit. You find yourself missing the fresh air, the roaring waterfalls, and rushing rivers of crimson. You wonder if you'll ever hear about how things are going up there. Until one day. There you are, Nancy. Again, I think this guy is supposed to look like Sigmund Freud, just throwing that out there. I thought today's newspaper might be of interest to you. You start reading the newspaper. The main article prominently features a photograph of an extensive pit mining operation. The caption reads, "Here once stood dusty and deserted Crimson Lodge, now a lucrative site of precious gems." Oh dear. Your heart skips a beat when you see your own face staring back at you with the caption, "Nancy Maple, newly minted Queen of Diamonds." A tiny article buried deep in the newspaper briefly mentions the regrettable destruction of a cormorant colony in Crimson, but such is the price of progress. There's a small mention of Nessa Crabbe. She's being charged with her brother's kidnapping and attempted fraud. The article mentions that Nessa's alleged accomplice Corvus Shaw is being charged for his role in Evan's kidnapping, assault, and attempted fraud. There's no mention at all about Carl's, attempted sabotage at the Sulaks, only that there will be minor delays due to routine maintenance.
They probably want to make sure there aren't any more explosive devices in and around the locks. Had Albert succeeded...
You shudder to think of it. Hey, there's a cat in the lower left. There's a cat there on the shelf. Oh, wait! We need you nearby for interviews and such. There's a car waiting to take you to a fancy hotel.
Oh, what about my things?
Worry about that tomorrow. You've got the day off. We'll send you in a car to pack a bag. Until then, the hotel will provide all. Enjoy!
Thanks, Professor.
A fancy new automobile is waiting for you outside. It spirits you to the King Edward Hotel in the fanciest part of town.
Gee!
She's not used to such swanky settings. You make your way to the hotel's restaurant. You're starving. Because of the lateness of the hour, you find yourself almost alone in the cavernous room, save for the servers. You dine on roast duckling with applesauce, fresh green peas, and chateau potatoes. You finish off with peaches imperial and chamomile tea. Or is it chamomile tea? After which you find your way to your luxuriously appointed room, feeling slightly green in the gills.
I think the food was a bit richer than I'm used to.
I know I've already hit half an hour, but I think I'm just going to see this through. I mean, this is the ending of the game, so I'll see the ending through, and I think I'll go ahead and do the other ending as well. I might as well do this in one video. This is going to be a really long video, but I might as well. You sink into the fancy feather bed. Her expression is not very rested. She seems kind of ill at ease, even though she's in this luxurious hotel. Your churning gut and general sense of unease make it hard to sleep. You stare at the ceiling and wonder if you actually want to be the Queen of Diamonds. Yeah, she's kind of dissatisfied with how things turned out. Despite all the glory and luxury, she's not quite happy with it. You did a good job with sussing out the motives and actions of the other guests, but you missed the mark on a few things. You scored 17 points out of 24 in your pre-departure ponderings. Okay, so I actually missed... I missed a couple of things. I missed the thing about the silver steins and what else? I don't know. So this is like, what? This is about 2/3 or a little bit more than. Wait, hold on. A third of 24 would be 8. So this is just over 2/3. So I missed like nearly a third of the points on that. You performed flawlessly in your interview with the Ranger. Excellent work. You scored 19 out of 19. Yeah, okay. So we aced the interview with Ranger Murdoch. 19 out of 19 points. So that at least was a perfect score. You could have done better in your investigating reporting of Margot's death, but you did your best. Yeah. You scored 0 points. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I really bungled the investigation about Margot. Gosh, okay. Karl Leffler, aka Albert Respa, was tried and found guilty of sabotage of the railway bridge, attempted sabotage of the Sulaks, espionage, fraud, theft, and a litany of minor charges. He was incarcerated at Kingston Penitentiary until his death 12 years later of a heart attack. Kingston is a city in Ontario, just like Toronto and the presumably fictional Crimson. The Sulaks were patrolled by the Northwest Mounted Police for the duration of the Great War, and no other sabotage attempts were made. The Great War is, of course, what World War I was called at that time. Today it's called World War I. At that time it was called the Great War, before World War II started. Thanks to this vigilance, Canadian supply lines along the Great Lake waterways remained uninterrupted. This played an important part in Commonwealth war efforts and crucially contributed to the Allied victory. Corvus Shaw was found guilty of being an accomplice in Evan's kidnapping, forgery, and attempted fraud. He was disbarred and served 5 years in a medium security prison. He became hardened by his prison experiences and fell in with the wrong crowds. Corvus spent the rest of his years in and out of correctional facilities for various white-collar crimes. Margot was buried in a cemetery of a town she'd never been to, because Crimson Cemetery was demolished along with everything else. You wish you'd been able to make Nessa face justice for Margot's murder, but at least she remained incarcerated and unable to hassle anyone anymore to the end of her days. Kimi Kishiro was greatly upset by the opening of the pit mine in Crimson and the subsequent destruction of the nesting colony of cormorants and other wildlife. She went home to Vancouver, never again to travel east of the Rockies. Once the government seized the lodge and lands, Jack moved on. He found odd jobs here and there, but never found another place he could call home. Because he revealed the diamonds in Crimson, not only was Evan's lodge and lands seized by the government to help fund the burgeoning war effort, but so was the lands of Nathan Cardinal's family. A gaping open pit mine was created and devastated the area. The Cardinals moved further north and persisted. Nessa Crabbe was found guilty of the attempted murder of Evan, kidnapping, and attempted fraud. She served a few years in the newly constructed northwest wing of Kingston Penitentiary. You feel like she got off too lightly. It bothers you that she didn't face justice for Margot's murder, but you didn't have enough evidence against her. So yeah, again, I missed the investigation on Margot's death, which would have probably put Nessa away for longer. Because of the huge open pit mining operation that overtook Crimson, Evan was forced by the government to sell the lodge and lands to them for next to nothing. Destitute, homeless, and grieving, he took to the bottle and died a few months later. Gosh, that's sad. He was laid to rest many miles away in a pauper's grave in a town he'd never seen before. Your discovery of the first diamonds in Canada was big news. He became known as the Queen of Diamonds and are Toronto's brightest new star. That autumn, the Royal Canadian Museum hosted your eagerly awaited exhibit, The Diamonds of Crimson. It garnered international acclaim. Media outlets clamor for interviews and a book deal is brokered. Fame and fortune are yours. Occasionally you come across small news items about the declining cormorant population in northern Ontario, or disputes over land rights, or environmentalist protests, but you push those thoughts out of your mind. The incredible wealth generated by the newly dug mines in Crimson contributes greatly to the war effort. You're showered with praise and accolades and even appear on some propaganda posters. You find yourself too busy managing your newfound wealth and social status to consider going to school for mineralogy, but you figure you merely took a shortcut to what you really wanted. Right? Thanks for playing. And that's it. That was the Crimson Diamond. And yeah, as you can see, design, writing, art, animation, and programming. Basically, everything was done by Julia Minamod. Like it's seriously like a one. This is basically a one-person product. The music was done by someone else. The music was done by Dan Polakar. And there was a Mac port done by Chad Armstrong. And yes, there was a sensitivity consultant. And yeah, a few other things. But basically, like the vast majority of work on this game was done by Julia. So thank you very much to Julia for making this game. It's a great game. I am going to refrain from commenting until we see the other ending, because there's another ending that I think we should go through before I really wrap things up. And like I said, those missing things, like the stuff about Margot's investigation and the Silver Steins and talking to Nathan in a spot where apparently I was supposed to talk to Nathan, I might make a follow-up video in the future about that. I'm not too sure about that. I kind of want to be done with this game, and I know people will say you're not really done with it unless you cover everything, but I can't cover everything. I would like to see what I'm missing about Margot, so I might I might do that. I might not. I can't promise it. I'll take a look and see how much there is. If there's enough to to be worth making a video about, then I might do it. But I to be honest, I can't promise. I'm not going to promise because I don't like promising things. I don't like promising things because sometimes I can't or don't deliver on my promises, and then I feel bad about it. So I'm not gonna make promises when I'm not 100% sure that I will do what I promised. So yeah, I believe these are the Patreons who contributed financially to the success of the game. It's not to be the case in any game that's made these days. The list of people who tested the game is the longest. Like usually there are a few programmers, a few artists, and there's this giant long list of testers who tested the game. It's like the work that involves the most amount of people. In the case of this game, the discrepancy is especially strong because again, the one person made the whole game. So you've got one person who made the game, and then like a lot of people who tested it, and a lot of people who contributed to it financially through their patronage. Special thanks to these people. Yeah, Crimson Tuesday. I think I mentioned before, Crimson Tuesday is a regular thing that Julia has on her Twitch stream, where she will. Actually, I don't know what she's doing now. I'm not. I don't watch her Twitch streams because they're usually in the middle of the night where I live. I guess they're at a reasonable time where she lives, but I live in a time zone where it's like really in the middle of the night, so I've rarely seen her streams. But if you're curious, check her out. She's on Twitch, I believe, and she still does Crimson Tuesday streams. So there you go. That was one ending to the game. So let's go ahead and come back here. So I'll just say no this time. I'm pretty confident and satisfied with what I've done in Crimson. I don't need your introspective thoughts. I watch the landscape whiz by and drift off into a contented sleep. There goes the train.
The train, boss.
Okay, and this is all stuff we've seen, so I'm gonna skip this. Let's see. Oh, can I? Okay, the game won't let me skip this. Let's see. So, I'm just gonna say no to her. I'm gonna do this interview just totally. I'm gonna totally blow the interview and just say, yeah. Okay, so this guy's asking, are there diamonds in Crimson? This is the critical moment that really determines the ending that we get. This is like the single biggest thing that determines the ending. So when he asks, are there diamonds in Crimson, we lie and say no.
I'm afraid I didn't find anything significant, Professor. I managed to obtain some good samples, though. And I think I'll still be able to produce a good report for my field work. It just won't be very exciting.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear it, Nancy. As for exciting, most research isn't. Don't worry too much about that. Come see me when you're ready, and I'll help you with your report.
Thank you so much, Professor Plummer.
Take care, Nancy. See you soon. Okay, and now we go on with the interview. So this interview proceeds as we saw it, so I'm just going to say no to everything. No, I'm afraid not. Okay, moving on. Did you find anything? No, sorry. Okay, moving on. Nope. Okay, moving on. No, I did not. Okay, all right. Nope. Okay, anything else? No, I'm afraid not. Moving on. All right. Nope. Oh, I missed some of his dialogue. He said something like, I'm to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed. Okay, sorry, I was trying to hurry through it, so we're already at the end. He said something like, to be honest, I'm a bit disappointed. I thought you could have contributed more, but oh well, it is what it is. If anything else occurs to you, please let me know. It could make a big difference in how this all pans out.
Yes, sir. And I'm sorry I couldn't be more helpful.
No need. I'm sorry for my bluntness. You did well, Nancy. It was an extremely stressful situation. I'm just glad you're safe and sound. Good night, Nancy.
Good night.
Okay. So, you don't have to complete your interview, and really set to work, and blah, 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 blah. We've seen all this. Oh, yeah, it says that we're leaving stuff out, such that there are diamonds in Crimson. Professor Plummer appears to be an enthusiastic and patient mentor despite his mild disappointment at the unremarkable findings. You impressed him with your attention to detail and hard work. Together you produce an impeccable field report that is published by the Royal Canadian Museum and eventually endorsed by the Geological Survey of Canada. Your first publication, Nancy, a real feather in your cap. Weeks pass, soon you're immersed in your regular life. You become an expert on the filing system and even suggest some ways to improve it. You find yourself missing the fresh air, the roaring waterfalls, blah blah blah. We saw this already until one day. There you are, Nancy. Today's newspaper might be of interest to you. So yeah, instead of that big article on diamonds, it's an article about, obviously that's Nessa, and to the left that's Corvus, obviously. You're relieved to see no mention of Crimson anywhere, not even the smallest news items. You figure no news is good news. There's no mention at all about Albert's... Yeah, we already saw that. So there's a newspaper, nothing else catches your eye.
That's a relief, I suppose.
Okay, so yeah. So nothing but the imprisonment, the sentencing and imprisonment of Nessa and Corvus. Cheer better with the whole diamond fiasco, eh, Nancy? We both knew it was a long shot. Good work today, kiddo. See you tomorrow bright and early.
Yes, sir.
And now we'll see the other ending. You start the long walk home. You're relieved that Crimson won't become an open pit mine and that Kimmy and her cormorants are safe and happy. Check out this woman here. See if she reminds you of anyone when her face pops up.
Hiya, Nancy. Another late night, eh? I've got a bit of stew saved for you. Kept it nice and warm on the stove. Thanks, Mrs. Williams. I'm starving. Go on in, lass. I'll serve it up.
Yes, that is Mrs. Williams. I am very sure, I'm like 500,000% sure that's Roberta Williams, who of course made the initial Colonel's Bequest games, and homage to Roberta Williams, who was best known for King's Quest, but made other games like, again, Colonel's Bequest. What else did she do? Mixed up Fairy Tales, Mr. Mother Goose. Later did Phantasmagoria. Recently did a 3D remake of Colossal Cave with her husband Ken.
I'll be down in a bit. Okay, lass, take your time.
Mrs. Williams ladles a hearty bowl of stew and slices a bit of bread for you. The food is delicious and warms you to the bone. She sits with you and the two of you chat about the goings-on in the neighborhood. You're grateful she rents your room so cheaply. Museum clerks don't get paid very much. Once your belly is full and Mrs. Williams has washed the bowl, she waves you away from this menial task. You step lightly upstairs lest you wake the other lodgers. And in contrast to our luxurious hotel room, which we saw in the other ending, here our lodging is this very simple and sparse room with a small bed and basically a stove, and that's about it. And a clothesline on the wall. You fall asleep as your head hits the pillow. You're exhausted and tomorrow will be another exhausting day. She's happy. She didn't get the glory and the glamour and the luxury and the wealth, but instead of being ill at ease and lying awake at night trying to sleep, she's happy and falls asleep instantly with a clear conscience and a calm heart and mind. But every exhausting day is another step closer to making your dreams come true. Well done, Nancy. You did a good job of discussing out the... Okay, so hold on. So so 70 out of 24, yeah, we got that already. You weren't much help at all to the Rangers' investigation. Hopefully they can still find justice for the wrong parties. Yeah, 0 points, sure. I said nothing to Ranger Murdoch, so of course, 0 points. Yeah, okay, so this is about Margot we knew. I think this is the same. So no change about what happened to Albert. I think no change about Corvus. Yeah, here's something different. Margot was laid to rest in Crimson's lushly overgrown cemetery in an informal service attended by Evan, Jack, Nathan, and Kimmy. You wish you'd be able to make Nessa face justice for Margot's murder, but at least Margot's at rest where she was loved. Kimmy Kishiro stayed in the lodge until after the autumn migration of birds, when she returned to Vancouver to be with her family. From then on, she'd visit Crimson for the spring and autumn migrations, as well as the cormorant's nesting season every summer. Jack remained at the lodge, continuing to take care of it, after Evan legally transferred the lodge and lands to Nathan Cardinal and his family. When Jack became old and creaky, the Cardinals in turn took care of him. Nathan Cardinal and Evan Richards arranged the transfer of the lodge and lands to the Cardinal family, effective immediately. Considering recent events, they agreed it was a good idea. The secret of the Crimson Diamonds remained hidden. Nessa Crabbe was found guilty, yes, so there's no change for Nessa. Evan Richards lived the rest of his days in his beloved lodge. Nessa was found guilty of kidnapping and attempted fraud and served a few years in Kingston Penitentiary. It bothers you that she didn't face justice for Margot's murder, which would likely have put her away for good. Nessa was poised to start legal battles with her brother over the land and lodge once she was released from prison, but died suddenly when she choked on a fishbone in a downtown restaurant. Upon Evan's death, he was buried alongside Margot and his parents in Crimson, which is exactly what he wanted. Nessa's body was buried in Toronto, which is exactly what she wanted. Everyone was satisfied with that outcome. Everybody got what they want. You continue working diligently as a clerk at the Royal Canadian Museum. A month later, you're accepted at the University of Toronto in the Department of Geology and Paleontology as an undergraduate. Professor Plummer spoke highly of your fieldwork in Crimson in his letter of recommendation. Although your findings weren't revolutionary, he tells you that impeccable work, regardless of result, is the bedrock of any scientific discipline. So I'm trying to read this fast because I just want to be done. This is so much exposition, man. I mean, I'm happy about the happy ending, but I just kind of want to be done with this. It's like I've had enough, so I'm sorry. The bedrock of any scientific discipline, and that he's very proud of you. A few months later, you receive a letter from Ranger Murdoch praising your investigative prowess and tenacity in helping to foil the sabotage attempt at the Sulaks. He says you're a natural detective and that he hopes your paths will cross again someday. Thanks for playing. And I think that's it. There you go. So those are the two endings. Those are the two main endings. In one ending, diamonds are discovered, or the information about the diamonds is made known. I'm going to turn down the game volume just for a bit, because I'm going to be very narcissistic now and just blabber for the final run of the credits here. That's it. That was the Crimson Diamond. So aside from the things that I missed, I mean, like I said, I missed something about Margot's death and a couple of other minor things. I might make a video about that, I might not. I'll look into it and see how much work it is and how much material it is. If it seems worth making a video about it, a follow-up video, then I'll do that, but I can't promise. So this might be the last video about the Crimson Diamond, in which case the question is, I'd like to answer the probably implicit question, what did I think about it? What are my feelings and thoughts and opinions about the game? I liked it. It's a good game. I think I said before, considering that it's all the work of one person, the amount of work and effort and attention to detail that's gone into this is stunning. This was obviously a labor of love. This is really a very heartfelt and sincere sort of love letter to these old classic Sierra adventures. That said, it's not that much different from those classic adventures. I don't know what I was expecting. For some reason, I was expecting, I guess, the game to somehow be a little bit more modernized, somehow a little bit more, I don't know, somehow I was expecting it to be a little bit different from classic adventures, but it really isn't. If I didn't know that this was a game released this year, I could have thought this was a game from the 1990s. Like, honestly, it could easily just be a game from the 1990s. It doesn't at all try to be different from the games back then, and it doesn't need to. I mean, let's be fair, it doesn't have to be. It is an homage to those games, and it does that very well. So, it doesn't really do anything spectacular. It doesn't make me, jump through the ceiling and say, wow, what a revolutionary game, it really just takes the genre in a whole new direction. It obviously doesn't. I mean, the influences are very clear. Nancy is very obviously, she's a carbon copy of Laura Bow. The whole setting of, this kind of swanky mansion in the middle of the wilderness, and even the whole plot, like, people trying to get into get some money that's about to be inherited or whatever from somebody who's about to die. I mean, all of that is extremely derivative of the Colonel's Bequest. So the game, in its premise and in its setting, is not stunningly original, but it doesn't have to be. It's a tribute, it's an homage, and it wanted to, Julia wanted to make a game that pays tribute to those early adventure games. She did exactly that, and I think she succeeded. So the game doesn't really do much different from the games it's inspired by, other than that stuff they talked about, the user interface. I liked the, again, I said I like the fact that you can use, what do you call them? The controls. The fact that you can have the controls be press and hold. I know some people don't like that. I got a comment that said, somebody said it was somehow reminiscent of the controls from Grim Fandango. Now, if you've played Grim Fandango, then you know what that person's talking about. If excuse me, sorry. If you've played Grim Fandango, then you know what the controls in the game are like. They're a bit... the way they work is basically you use the left and right arrows to turn around, and use up and down arrows to move forward and back. So I think the person just called them tank-style controls. So they're not really classical adventure-style controls. They're actually like tank-style controls. And the person said that's one of the worst things about Grim Fandango. I personally like them. I didn't think they were that bad. I didn't think that control movement scheme of Grim Fandango was that bad. Obviously, some people see it differently. Some people really didn't like it. So what can I say? I thought it was okay. The thing that bothered me about Grim Fandango was the camera system. The way the camera keeps moving around. It does this Resident Evil style thing where sometimes you need to walk towards the camera so you can't see what's in front of your character because the camera is pointing away from the place that you need to walk to. So you kind of have to walk into the camera and hope that you're walking in the right place because the camera is literally pointing away from where you want to go, which I thought was annoying. But the controls themselves in Grim Fandango are, in my opinion, fine. But if you don't like it in this, like if you don't like the press and hold controls in this game, you can turn them off and have them work more like controls from classic Sierra adventures. So I liked that. That was an innovation that I actually really liked. I appreciate that feature in this game. Other than that, a few minor things about the user interface, it's a very, typical sort of adventure game. It really looks and sounds and plays just like a classic adventure game. So, as a tribute, I think it works very well. It works really well. If you're expecting something really innovative, if you're expecting it to somehow, if you're expecting it to push adventure games in a whole new direction and do something totally wild and crazy that adventure games have never done, then you're not going to find that here. It's not a massively innovative game. It is a good game. It's a good adventure that was fun to play. I really enjoyed it. So, I liked it. And it had some... one thing I found out, by the way, remember I commented on all those drawers? I said, why are there so many drawers? Like, there are like dozens of drawers and closets and cabinets you can open, and they're all empty. So what's the point of that? It turns out there's a Steam accomplishment achievement. Sorry, there's an achievement for opening and checking everything. So I'm not paying attention to Steam achievements. Like, I don't really care about that. But if you want to get all the achievements in the game, there are achievements in this game, and there's an achievement for checking all the drawers and cabinets and cupboards in the game. So that's why that's there. It doesn't drive the plot at all because most of the things are empty. It's just there as another way to get an achievement for checking everything. So if you care about achievements, the game has achievements. This game has achievements for doing stuff like that. I am, not really too concerned with getting every achievement in the game. I'm not somebody who really... I'm not one of those people who feels the need to collect every achievement in every game. But I know that some people are perfectionists and collectors, and they want to get all the achievements in all the games. So if you care about that, then, hey, you've got achievements in this game as well. You can try to get all the achievements by checking everything, other stuff. So yeah. Steam achievements are something that obviously Sierra games didn't have. But other than that, again, this game doesn't really do much that's different, but that's okay. It doesn't have to. It's a great game in its own right, and I had a lot of fun playing it, and that's all that matters in the end, isn't it? It's a fun game. It's a good game, fun game, very well crafted game, I think, obviously made with a lot of love, and I enjoyed my time with it, and I hope that you folks enjoyed your time with me as well, going through this game, playing this game, watching me play this game. I would encourage you to play the game yourself. If you like what you see here, try it out yourself. It's a great game. And I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you very much to Julia for making this game. Thank you so much. I really appreciate what you've done with it. It is a great piece of work. It is really a very polished and very well done piece of work in almost every way. So yeah. I guess I'm done here. I'm coming up on exactly 1 hour. Wow, exactly 1 hour. Good timing. So yeah, I guess that's it for me. That's all I have to say. So thank you to all you viewers for watching. Thank you everyone for coming along with me on this journey, on this adventure, on this lovely story. Take care, everyone. Hope you're all doing well, and I'll talk to you in a future video. Until then, bye-bye for now.